We're doing a live interview here with Dan Nichols, and he's one of the pastors of Restored Church in Wilkes-Barre, Pennsylvania, and he's going to share a little bit more about their story here in just a second. But Dan, I appreciate your time today. Thanks for joining in and doing this interview, and really just laying out the general topic we'll be discussing is kind of building rapport in the community as you're kind of gearing up for that launch of your church. And we've discussed weeks ago here in the class about kind of choosing an approach and choosing a model and that sort of thing. And so depending on your approach to planting, whether you're doing a house church or kind of a hybrid or a more centralized traditional approach, no matter which one, there's still some level of building rapport because you've moved into the city, you've moved into the neighborhood, and you want lost people to be part of your church through disciple making. And so this, even what you guys did, and I love your kind of approach for church. You're going to explain that here in just a second, but I think some of the ideas that you guys did to get ready for building rapport, and also how you've maintained and have you done that since you've launched. And so tell us a little bit more about Restored Church, how it got started, how long you guys have been a church, and some of those other kind of the story of your church.
Sure. In 2010, a dorm mate of mine named Tim Walker and I, we connected. We started going through a book together called Crazy Love, and we just really started talking about what it would look like to plant a church and focus on discipleship and reaching people far from God as well. So we started wondering where we would plant, and we found this city called Wilkes-Barre, and it's just a little bit south of Scranton for all of you Office fans out there. And we're in the top right corner of Pennsylvania, and our city is, at that time, we were hearing stats of 2.9% evangelical and 3.1% evangelical. Since then, it's probably gone up to about 4 to 5, so 4 to 5% is pretty high.
Yeah.
Up here. But Wilkes-Barre is just a very depressed city economically, very dark spiritually. It's no secret. Everyone knows that. It's been in decline for quite a while, ever since a flood in 1972. And so we moved in the middle of the city, and we started a house church. And we just had people over for pizza, and we had a guided discussion through Scripture. The neighborhood included a Megan's Law sex offender, a Wiccan witch, a heroin dealer, and a girl who would sleep under the bridge in our city and bring different guys to house church. Wow. That she was sleeping with under that bridge. So it was completely different than anything I had ever grown up around. I grew up in the safe, sheltered suburbs of Cleveland, Ohio, and couldn't believe that God ever called me to this environment. But we had 15 people come the first night, and then in a couple months we had 50 people coming, and we had no more room, we had no more food, and all we were doing was just opening the book of Colossians and just going verse by verse through Scripture. And we did, a year of monthly preview services. We multiplied those house churches. Anyway, long story short, now we just received a $100,000 grant to get our very own building, 7-bedroom house and parking lot. We're averaging 180 on Sundays, which is pretty cool. We have 10 house churches, and of those 180 come to the gathering, we have 150 plugged into house church.
Wow.
So over 75% of our people are getting out of pews and into circles. So in our city, there's a lot of churches that have 10, 20, 30. The building that we've rented for 2 to 3 years, and we're now leaving because we got the grant, that building seats 700, and it got down to 10 people. So it's this huge cathedral, 10 people, and that's very, very common in Wilkes-Barre. You'll find a lot of churches well under 50. So God's blessed, and we've had 29 baptisms, and we're seeing people far from God start to become multiplying followers of Jesus themselves.
Wow, that's so cool. That's so cool. And one of the reasons I really wanted to interview you and have you speak into this class this semester, when I met you last year up in Pennsylvania, up in Harrisburg at the ABWE training thing, I was just amazed. First of all, you were a guy younger than me, and you were doing some crazy cool stuff that I always dreamed of doing like in 10 years. I'm like, man, if this guy's doing it now, what's stopping me? So you've kind of put the fire under me to get going a little faster. But I was very, very just impressed with your leadership and how your church has really loved your city. Like your heart beats for your city, and so for this week in our class, we're talking about building rapport in the community. How do you get to where in that we're talking about the kind of the pre-launch phase, but how do you move into a community and to a city and just prove and demonstrate and show that we are here for that city, we love that city, and we want. But there's also an element when you're getting a church plant established, you're doing some advertising as well. You're building relationships. All these kind of things happen, but you really want to be a church for your community. And I think you guys have done that just extremely well. And so, kind of share a little bit about just the idea of why to build rapport in the community as a new church plant.
Well, first of all, we didn't know what we were doing when we started. We had a lot of great ideas. We had a lot of things we thought would work. And I think any church planner that has made it will tell you that initially you just have no clue what you're doing, and that's just kind of how God works. He uses the weak to confound the wise and whatnot. But what we did decide on, one thing we did decide that was really powerful, was that we wanted to go and involve ourselves with what was already happening in our city, rather than create kind of Christian subculture things that would call people to come to us. Because that's what Jesus did, right? God didn't stand up in heaven and go, hey, all you humans that are separated from me in your sins, come up to heaven, just get up here, like, come on. He sent Jesus to enter. And so what we've done is, very practically for us, that means we go to events and we build relationships with people in our city who are far from God, and events that aren't Christian events. We do Chalk Fest, we do the big 4th of July thing in our city, we join the Downtown Business Association, we have our missions teams go and pay people's parking meters just to start relationships, conversations. We do more relational and servant evangelism. There's been a lot of the direct kind of knock on doors and give the gospel bullet points, and I don't think that's a bad thing per se, but most of the people in Wilkes-Barre, if you asked them, have you heard about Jesus? A lot of them have, but their view of Jesus has been kind of skewed by a lot of those things. Yeah. So what they haven't experienced is relational and servant evangelism, to where people love them just for who they are. And that's been really effective. And the city takes notice. Whatever area you're wanting to plant in, they can see from a mile away what your end game is. So we are upfront with them, and we say, look, we are a church. We want to multiply followers of Jesus. However, we're going to enter into your world. We're going to come to Chalk Fest. We're going to serve at River Fest. We're going to, what other things? There's probably a ton of other things I'm forgetting, and I'm going to send some of the files here for everyone to look at. But nice. One of the things we did was a community needs survey. I don't know if you guys have ever done this, but when I was in high school, I used to do surveys in malls where I basically lied to people. And I said, hey, I'm taking a spiritual survey, but we never used it for a survey at all. And the only goal was to ask the 2 evangelism explosion questions at the end. And a lot of people came to Christ through evangelism explosion. Like, I'm not against evangelism explosion. I just remember thinking, well, we're not really doing a survey. So what we do now, we do a community needs survey, and we actually take in the data from the survey, and all we do is we ask people, hey, what do you think Wilkes-Barre needs? What are some things, like felt needs, basically, what they feel, and they might be right, they might be wrong. I mean, very few people are like, oh, this city needs Jesus. Most people will say something other than that, but at least we're finding out from our city where they're at and what they're passionate about, and then trying to find needs that we can meet. And then at the end of the survey, we're up front with them and we say, hey, we're a church, we'd love to invite you to a group that's meeting here or here. And at that point, when we started doing it, we only had 1. Now we have 10 of them. And those have been really, really effective, just asking our city what they feel about what their city needs.
Yeah. And I love your approach of you joining what the city is already doing, because we were talking a little bit before the interview. Different locations, especially if they're in the Northeast, you really can't build it and they will come. You can't always just grow your church, throw all the programs and throw all the cool bells and whistles and just say, hey, we built it so people want to come, right? All of the lost people in Wilkes-Barre will come if we just build a really cool church and have everything needed for them. And that's not the case in the majority of the U.S. I think there are some kind of rural areas in the South that may really work really well in. So that's actually kind of a strategy almost to do that in some locations. But in those places where it is, like in your area, around 5 5% or so evangelical, where 90 to 95% of people do not know Jesus. They're beyond Christian. They're post-Christian. They don't understand,
Right.
the framework of why do church. So they're not going to come. So your investment in let's find what they're already doing in the city. How are people already getting together? What are the events that we can just be a part of? And so instead of maybe starting a new kids ministry, you're helping with something that is happening for kids in the city. Instead of doing your own trunk or treat or something like that, you're participating in the city's events and stuff. So I love that approach, and I think that really is how you build rapport, because you're showing the city that we don't expect you to come to us, we'll come to you. And I love you guys' heart for that. Well, I kind of want to talk about two things, two sides of building rapport. There is kind of an advertising side. Some of the older textbooks for church planning talked a lot about making a lot of phone calls, telemarketing, passing out flyers, doing email lists, mailings, billboards, TV commercials. I mean, there's a whole realm of things you can do to advertise. I know you guys have done a good bit of that as well. And what I love about what you guys have done, you have also balanced that with the building the presence and building relationships as well. So we're going to kind of talk about both of those. So tell me a little bit about, just give me a few sample ideas of what you guys did before you planted or before you launched to kind of do some advertising, and then what are some things you've done afterward? I know one got you on the Huffington Post, and got you into a little bit of controversy with some of your your pastor friends, not really anyone else. But so tell me a little bit about some of the kind of more standard advertising ideas that you've done.
Well, before the advertising, I just want to go back to what you said about the relationships and the PDF that I sent you, the My Circle Evangelism. There is nothing more powerful than mobilizing people to build relationships with their spheres of influence. And if you really think that you're going to reach your city just by putting on great events or preaching a sermon, you're very, very mistaken. You have to mobilize the entire body to be evangelists in their own right, but to do it relationally.
That's a good point.
I really believe moving forward in this country, like, the only effective churches will be churches that build relationships interpersonally. And churches that are more event driven or big budget driven or whatever, not that those things are bad, we do all those things, which I'll talk about, but if you don't have the foundation of mobilizing people to be relationally based themselves and to invest in people far from God just in their Monday through Saturday, it's never going to go anywhere. So, anyway, that's the basis. But advertising-wise, yes, we did everything you could possibly imagine. We did. We did we paid $4,000 for this. It didn't work well at all. At least not down here. It's a good idea. It's a phone call thing where you do, I forget, I think we called like 40,000 homes or something like that. And it was like an automated, hey, we're a new church in the area. If you want more information, press 1. If you don't, press 2. So it was really, it wasn't a bad thing. It just wasn't super effective for our area. We did mailers. We did, the cards. We had the little connection cards. But honestly, out of all that we did, and we did everything possible, the two things outside of relationships is just always number one. But outside of relationships, the number two thing was Facebook. And the number one thing was a billboard. We still have people coming in from Facebook stuff and billboard stuff that we did years ago.
Wow.
And I'll ask people constantly, it's really bad when you're a church that has a lot of people far from God coming. The one question you don't want to ask is this your first time here? Because a lot of them have been coming for a while and you just don't know it. But so we've learned not to ask that question, but the two questions we do ask are, where are you from and how did you hear about us? And almost everyone, if they're not saying it's a relationship, they're saying Facebook billboard, Facebook billboard, Facebook billboard.
Wow.
So I would really, personally, from what we've experienced in the Northeast here, I would encourage any church planner to put a lot of time into trying to get a billboard and trying to get a Facebook, at least a really good, clear Facebook that doesn't just talk about events and doesn't just talk about information, but celebrates the wins of transformation. And if you can celebrate the wins of transformation and people see that this really makes a difference in people's lives, and you're just constantly, here's a win, here's a win, here's a win, that's been super effective.
Wow.
The billboards have been good. The first billboard we took out was No Perfect People Allowed, and that was our grand opening. The second billboard got us into a lot of trouble. It was for our sermon series on the Song of Solomon, and we were story 28 out of 90 on Yahoo.com, like front, whatever you call that, the main landing page of Yahoo.com. We were like right there. Huffington Post, Greta Van Susteren. There was a London tabloid that just ran us. Good Morning America called. Yeah, I'll send you a picture of the billboard, and you guys can talk about it in class. And you can if you just Google Restored Church Wilkes-Barre, you'll find. I don't know. We tried to keep up with where it went, and we couldn't because it was just nuts. But
so you were going viral with it, huh? Huh? It was going viral, huh?
Yeah, it got a little nuts, but it was good, and our church, grew by 70%. I mean, it was very effective. The first guy who walked in said, "I've been away from God for 12 years. My dad died when I was young. I gave up on God. I saw your billboard about sex, and now I'm here to find out, what the Bible says about it." Yeah. So I mean. Lots of wins there, but now our next billboard, I had a crazy idea that our leadership team shot down 11-1, so that didn't go anywhere. But what we did was our third core value was in the city for the city, and I'll shoot you pictures of all these billboards. But man, they are super effective, and the Facebook page, that has been really good for us. The mega church in our area has about 2,300 people coming. Every week, which I know down where you guys are at, that's normal. But
not quite everywhere, but we have a few of those, yeah.
Okay, well, they have about 3,000 likes on their Facebook page. We're averaging 180, and we have 2,500 likes. So
wow.
we're like right behind a church that has 2,300 people coming, and we only have 180 because we're a small church plant. They've been going for decades and decades, but I mean. We've put a lot of time into the Facebook page. That's why I say that, and it's invaluable. I mean, we even do a little bit of paid advertising on Facebook. Our latest promo video, which I'll also send to you, that we reached 20,000 people for I think $80, somewhere between 80 and 100.
Wow.
So yeah, we do all that stuff, but you got to layer it with the relationships.
Well, I'm pulling up your guys' Facebook page now, since I can show it here live screen for the class. So facebook.com/ is it Restored Church, or how would I?
RestoredChurch.org.
Okay, so.
That's not my kid, by the way.
All right, so I am. And I may even try to pull up a picture of the infamous billboard we were just discussing.
Yeah, I'll shoot a picture over if you can't. But yeah, if you just Google it, you'll find it on AOL.com, Yahoo.com, Huffington Post.
So I'm gonna do Restored Church billboard.
Yeah, and type in Wilkes-Barre probably too. I don't know.
Okay, Wilkes.
It was a year ago, and I got so discouraged from reading. Religious people commenting on it that I just
kind of let it go,
oh gosh, yeah,
let it pass off. All right, well my computer is going a little bit slow, so I think your website is just now coming up. But yeah, I remember because I think when I met you last year, you had just done the billboard, and yeah. It was last summer, wasn't it?
It was last. It was August 27th when it went up last year. It was on my birthday, of all things.
Oh, wow.
And, the best article, I mean, all the articles were good. It's mostly the comments that people just, we got hate mail from all across the country saying you need a refund on your seminary degree. You obviously don't know what the gospel is. You look like you're 15 years old. How about you go back to playing your video games? Please stop. You're stupid.
What? But these are Christians telling you this. Well, at least
that email I don't know, but
some of them
the
were.
One before that, the one about the refund on my seminary degree, yeah, that was from someone who claims to be a Christian, yeah.
Okay.
But yeah, no, the Blaze, we were on the Blaze, ABC Nightly News, New York Daily News, Huffington Post, the Christian Post article gave us a chance to kind of respond because we never really responded because it would just look like we were, it would look bad. So the whole time we actually never responded, but then that article gave us a chance. But really, at the end of the day, the whole purpose of the billboard was not to attract religious people.
Right.
It was to tell our city that sex is not a horrible thing, and especially in our Catholic, highly Catholic area. And there's nothing against Catholics per se, but in our area, I've talked to most of the, tons of thousands of people in our city, and almost all of them grew up Catholic, and they just have this sense that the church is somehow anti-sexuality and,
Right.
repressive and all this stuff. And so we were just telling our city that, what, God isn't opposed to sex. He actually designed it and created it, and it's an awesome thing when it's in the context of marriage between a man and a woman. Which was funny because we also got a lot of flack back from, our city, because we took a stance, and we even preached on homosexuality. That was the final message. And so it was funny. We were getting all this crazy stuff, but the best win of it all was I got to go on KRZ, which is kind of the Ryan Seacrest type of show, radio show in our city. And Jeff and Amanda have both read How Good Is Good Enough now because of the billboard.
Oh, wow.
I built a relationship with them, and they're kind of the most famous DJs in our area. Jeff Walker, he's been at this radio station for 35 years. He's the biggest celebrity in our city, and he read How Good Is Good Enough by Andy Stanley, and we just went to breakfast 2 weeks ago, and we just have this really great relationship going, and he wants to do breakfast again. So.
All right, so let me get this straight. You do this, and I have it pulled up here so the students can see it, see the billboard, and so we'll digest this, and we'll break it down, and we'll post some comments on here for you to make you either cry or uplift you. We'll choose one or the other.
Good.
But I love that the billboard, because I've seen some church billboards that it was the pastor and his wife's face, and basically come to this church because we have good smiles, and it was like I don't really get that, but here. Your thing was you were not trying to cause any kind of controversy. You weren't trying to do anything. You really wanted to let lost people know that God had designed for sex, and it's okay, and our church is all about what God wants in relationships. Yeah. And so now it actually has led to other relationships. And I think that is just phenomenal. And I've also got your Facebook pulled up here as well to kind of show. And so I'm going to encourage all of our group to like. I'm going to go ahead and like it right now. So I'm going to be number 2559. Because I know I follow you, I'm friends with you personally on Facebook, but I don't think I've done Restore Church. So now I'm your next like. So when you go on and talk about it, I can be one of them. Well, man, I think these top two, especially social media, that's one that a lot of new churches now, as they're getting ready, they are building a big Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook presence. Just because with that you can follow cities' hashtags. You can, like one thing that I do for me personally is I follow every single our newspaper in town, the radio stations. I follow all the community events, the commerce, all those things that are happening downtown. I follow those, and sometimes I'll go in and interact and post. And so I've gotten new followers on my personal just because I went in and liked something that the city of Winston was doing, and then someone just started following me. So I think social media is definitely a good avenue. I think Facebook probably more so because a lot of people don't use Twitter. But they will be on Facebook. I think over half the world right now is on Facebook or something like that, crazy. And so I think that's definitely because you can really build connections there, and it gives your people who are part of your group an avenue to share things that are coming from it. So I think building a social media platform is a really good way of doing rapport. And I think the billboards that not just to have flashy billboards that turn heads, but ones that do like what you've done and they communicate. Hey, our church is about the gospel. We want to get your attention, but we don't want to flash and awe you. We want you to see there's something going on here at this church that's a little bit different. Come and hear about Jesus, not just hey, we're cool and flash. So I think I love that approach, and I appreciate you guys doing that in a very good, balanced, healthy way. Let's take our next couple of minutes and discuss a little more about the relationship building aspect. What you've done to really build relationships in your community, because that's something that you guys started off with, I know, and it's really a core value of your church is to maintain and keep building those more evangelistic, disciple-making relationships. So let's take the next few minutes and kind of go through a little bit about how your church has done that and how you're mobilizing your people to continue building those relationships in the community as well.
Sure. Well, the first thing is you got to live with the people that you're trying to reach. And a lot of planners. I mean, I met a planner in one city. His whole strategy, and he told me this. He's like, my strategy is, I'm going to reach all the suburb people in the suburbs, and they all work downtown. So what we're going to do is we're going to reach all the wealthy suburban people, but ultimately our goal is to reach the city, but we're going to plant this church in the suburbs so that we can reach the city. And like it's not going real well.
Yeah.
And the thing is that strategy doesn't work. If you're gonna reach the suburbs, live in the suburbs. If you're gonna reach the city, move into the city. If you're gonna reach the rural areas, move into the country. Like you have to live with the people that you're with, and it's tough. Like living on Myers Court, like I talked about earlier, I did not enjoy that. I was there alone for 2 months, and then we finally, our core team finally came and was living with us. So two months I was by myself, and then we lived there on Myers Court for about a year. Guys in one row house and girls in the other row house, and it was tough, man. Like it's not fun to live in an environment that A, you're not used to, or B, like I mean there was frat parties and like all this stuff going on that was really difficult to be around, and then like the heroin dealer, like he assaulted his girlfriend right outside our front porch. It's just like really tough stuff, and that speaks volumes to people. Like people cannot believe it when you live with them and you make sure that you're communicating to them, look, I'm in this with you.
Yeah.
So that's the biggest thing. I mean, live with the people you're trying to plan with. If you move it, the best thing is if it's your own hometown. I mean, honestly, like the best way to plan, I think, is you just grew up in a place, and you get a heart for the gospel, and you just already know everybody.
Yeah.
And you just go for it. But really, this stuff that I just sent you, the My Circle Evangelism Strategy, it's a friend of ours up in well, he's not in Syracuse now. He was. They planted in Syracuse, and all it is really simple. It's just relationship evangelism, trying to identify who's in your spheres of influence, trying to pray for one of those people every day, and then trying to share the gospel with someone once a month, and then also inviting them. I've heard it said another way, like pi squared, pray, invest, invite. But the more that you can get people to just take time out of their Monday through Saturday to hang out with people, spend time with people, that's really where it's at. But the problem is that's not really sexy in a sense of church planning. That's not really. That's not something that feels all that great, trying to convince people to spend more time with people in their spheres of influence who are far from God, because people don't want to do that.
Right. Well, life is messy. We don't want to get our lives so messy enough. Why do we want to step into another person's messy life? But that's what Jesus did. John 1:14, he stepped into the messy life of humanity, and he incarnated himself into us. I think that's very much what you're saying.
And anything that's going to make a church plant truly successful in the sense of you make more and better disciples and you see life change happening, it's going to take a lot of messiness, and it's going to take a lot of non-sexy stuff. So, one night I remember we were trying to get some things going with the church plant, and one guy texted me he had some mental illness. Jake and I went over, we were counseling him. He bolted out of the counseling session. We chased him through the streets of our city because he had glass in his hands and he was going to slit his throat. And we chased him at midnight. I was in my flip-flops. I was out of shape. I'm like trying to get the cops there. And we wrestled him down in a back alley. And I mean, the whole time I'm like, God, I don't know how to do this. I've never done this before. I'm not street smart. I'm not even strong. I mean, I barely bench like 100 pounds. What am I doing this for? What's going on with this? But that's what real church planting is. It's getting involved in the messy lives of real people. And the more that you do that in the non-flashy stuff, then you'll start to see more of the big sermons or the big gatherings or whatever, because people will be drawn to the genuine authenticity. And that's redundant on purpose. You need to be as real as possible and just live life with people, and the more that you do that, things will start to come together, and then all of a sudden you'll start to have what you typically think of when you think of church as far as buildings, budgets, and whatever. But if you think that church planning is buildings, budgets, and the billboards and whatever, those are all just tools to help with the true church planning, which is life change that looks more like Jesus.
Yeah, yeah. So if you're really, I mean, very fitting to what we're talking about this week in class, building rapport. It's beyond just letting the community know you're there. It's letting the community know you're there for them and getting involved in their messy lives right alongside with them. And from those relationships, showing that we don't just want you to come to our church because we think that you need church. We want you to come because we care about you and you need Jesus, and let us live that out. And I think that is a big missing ingredient. We often can, even in kind of a pre-launch phase of a church plant, we can get wrapped up in thinking, okay, we got to make sure the website is up, we got to make sure the Facebook page is built, we got to make sure the Twitter is correct, we got to make sure all of our bulletin designs are done, we got to make sure the meeting space has the right number of chairs, the worship band has all the equipment. So we focus so much on all those tools that we forget, wait a second, I don't know my neighbor's name. I just moved to the city. I've been here for a year. I don't know my next door neighbor's name. At that point, you look back and you can really say, well, I really didn't plan a church very well. Let's backtrack. So I think starting from those relationships and then using these extra things as tools, just like what you're saying, and that really is how you build rapport. You actually show community, we love you, the people of the community. We don't love the fact that you may come and tithe at our church, or you may come and boost our numbers. We love you no matter how you come.
And Wilkes-Barre knows and believes that we want Wilkes-Barre to be a better city, whether they start following Jesus or not.
Yeah, yeah.
And that is huge.
Yeah. Well, man, Dan, thank you so much for your time today. I think this has been immensely helpful, and I'd love to have you maybe do another few of these for some classes down the road as we continue just really equipping our group. And you're working on a D-Min, correct? And once you get that done, we'll just hire you to take my place. You'll be a stellar guy. And, man, we want to pray for you. We want to pray for a restored church. And let me know 2 prayer requests as we close out. What's one prayer request for your church, and then what's one for you personally that we can pray for? And we'll do this as a group in class.
The biggest prayer request for our church is more disciple makers. We just need more people to come and help kind of take our people deeper in their faith. That's always a struggle because we have so many people far from God coming. And the people who have been following Jesus for a long time, we're getting so tired because it's like, it's great. It's a great problem to have, but we just need more disciple makers, and we're also going to be planting, Lord willing, another church in a city called Hazleton, and it's 40% Hispanic. So we need some Hispanic, Spanish-speaking disciple makers as well.
Wow.
So if any of you in the class are either Hispanic or you're Spanish-speaking, we have a city in northeastern Pennsylvania that desperately needs Jesus, and we need you to come help us.
Nice.
And then personally, we just had my wife Joy and I, we've been married 2 years, and we just had our first son Landon, and he has to have 3 open heart surgeries. He had the first open heart surgery in the first week of birth, and he has to have 2 more. He's doing well. He did flatline on us twice, which scared us, but he is getting better, and just keep praying that we can take him home. We are at the Children's Hospital in Philadelphia, and he's been in there ever since he was born a month and a half ago, and we just really want to take him home.
Wow, well, we are definitely going to pray for little Landon. I've been following you on Facebook and on Instagram, just kind of keeping up with Landon, and my wife and I, we've been praying personally. Our church has been praying for you, our gospel community, small group, we've been praying for little Landon, and we get your emails and all that sort of thing, and so it's been really neat to see how God has really kept this little boy alive, and of course we believe for a greater purpose, and so we want to keep praying for him. Our class will commit to pray for little Landon and pray for your church as you are really. I love that your prayer request was not that we're moving into a new building and everything looks good. I was almost thinking that, because I saw from some of your posts earlier this week that you guys are in the process of having a new space, but it was that you would do the Great Commission even more so, and I think that's wonderful, and I think that really exemplifies your heart for the Great Commission for church planning. And dude, I respect you. You're one of my favorite guys, and at any time that we can serve you here from Winston-Salem, man, just let us know. And I appreciate your time. Let your wife know that we appreciate her putting up with your crazy ideas and following you as you're chasing guys in back alleys with glass. I'm sure that kind of wrecks her nerves a little bit, and but we appreciate both of you. And man, I'm going to sign off here, and man, if we can help you, let us know. Appreciate you, buddy.
Thank you.
All right, take care.